happen there, it will depend on how you turn the place around. I mean, the fortunes of the place around. Now, let's look at the current education minister in terms of the description of he being very, very competent. I will relate that to his work, okay? And if you ask me, in the first tenure of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, His Excellency, I will also classify someone like Prempeh as very, very competent in the sense that this is one minister who was able to implement a policy that was so difficult. Ghanaians even doubted him, okay? However, we all know that, I mean, every new thing will go through certain processes that will require that we brainstorm and solve the issues as and when. They seem to probably distract whatever policy we have in there. We have introduced a policy. A new minister has taken over. If you want me to describe him as competent, then I want to really measure his output, whatever he's bringing to bear. And I like this. I've met a number of people who are just good speakers. They read very well, either through observation or through the normal practical experience they have. They speak well to the issues. For me, until he uses the so-called experience to change the face of education, I wouldn't call him that competent. Now, you need to demonstrate some level of competence for us to give you the job. When you demonstrate that, now you've been confronted by the job. You were part of a regime that introduced a policy. We still have some difficulties in the educational sector, which will require that you use that experience that you profess that you have to change things around. Until then, I will hold on to my description of his competence. But you see, if probably we'll take this subject out of context and discuss it, and I mean, probably look at some of the statements he made today. I think it's part of your... Absolutely. No, that's what we're discussing. I'll go around again. That the education minister pushes for economic transformation through education. That is long overdue. You know, in Africa, if you're talking about a country with goodwill for provision of education, Ghana is second to none. Ghana is second to none. You know, now people are using our expertise to generate revenue, in fact, economic benefit which contributes to their GDP in their respective countries. My brother, go to South Africa today. KwaZulu University, Vice Chancellor, Ghanaian. Go to Stellenbosch. HODs. In fact, the immediate HOD of the doctoral program in Stellenbosch, one of the best universities in Africa, is a Ghanaian. He was just replaced by another Nigerian. So you see, it tells you how some countries have positioned themselves to use the expertise of Ghanaians to generate revenue for their economies, for their GDPs. Now, the average Ghanaians will now go to those countries, are you okay, to finance their education by contributing towards the GDP of those nations. I am very, very happy to have a minister talking about pushing the economic transformation through education. We have several. Let me even cite one example. We have a British Council in this country. If you know the money that British Council contributes to the GDP of UK, you have no idea. They tend to lace and then coordinate all the educational institutions in UK, in Ghana here, both professional and academic. The amount of money, get funds spent, in fact, our taxpayers' money, we spend on Ghanaians whose appetite for foreign education through our scholarship. Those monies, if they were invested in the Ghanaian economy, it will enhance our GDP. It to a large extent will expand our consumption. Here we are helping other countries to develop through our, the minutest amount of taxes that we pay to finance their...
Do you know why I'm smiling?
Yeah.
And do you know why I'm nodding so hard? It's because you have just spoken my mind.
Thank you, sir.
It's also because, and I've always wanted to ask this question, whether if we talk about the Ministry of Education, it is a ministry primarily centered around advancing the educational system of preschool, you know, JHS, SHS, and just some universities. Or it should be the generality of all the educational institutions we have in this country. And I'm asking this question on the basis of the argument that you are advancing, that for instance, we live in this country where we have made it very impossible for students to even gain admission to pursue their professional course at the law school. So you have Ghanaians going to pay dollars in Gambia. You have Ghanaians going to pay £10,000, £15,000 in London, just so they can be, you know, called to the UK bar.
That is it.
Or the Gambian bar, and then they will come to Makola. All these monies, you can even decide that, listen, let's restructure the educational system where we can say that, okay, for those of you who have, let's say, LLB, okay, and you've written your entrance exams, so if you are not able to pass, we'll create a system of fee paying so that, assuming that they wanted to go to the UK, we can even slash it into half and say, okay, pay £5,000 for the period and be called to the Ghanaian bar.
And increase the credit hours.
Absolutely, increase the credit hours.
Well.
So that is,
it means that it needs more attention. It's not true. You see, as a country, we always lament.
Do you understand?
No, Honorable, it's so disheartening that the very things that will enhance our economic empowerment, we don't do it. Yes. Now, we have several, sorry, Kwame, we have several missions in various countries. What do? We rather send them our hard taxpayers' money to pay their salaries there. When in actual fact, if those missions we send there are very, very proactive and business-minded, Ghana will not send money to those countries in paying their salaries, in renting their apartments for them. How will you be an ambassador in a country like maybe Rwanda or Nigeria or even US, and you expect us to transfer our hard-won cedi and then translate into dollars and then send them, when we have several businesses that they can promote on behalf of Ghanaians? Now let's come back to education again. Chairman, you see,
this point that I'm making, I'm speaking from
no, that is only law.
I'm just only law. But that's one aspect of it. That's why I'm saying that. And how do we look at education? Because you're talking about, you are talking about economic transformation. Economic transformation will not start with the senior high school students.
No.
Well, it will start with them, but it will not end with them. Correct? Because the economic transformation, it may not even start with them, because the tertiary institutions should be the creators.
Thank you.
You know, that will handle that conversation to be had. Yeah. But if you look at how we manage our educational setup, friends of mine, myself, about 40 Ghanaians went to Rwanda just so, you know, it's not because maybe we're not competent, but because the system is such that you cannot even get into the law school. So you have to find a way around it. You go and pay $6,000 to the Rwandan economy. Yeah. What they have done is that they have cited most of their law schools outside of Kigali. So it's on the outskirts of Kigali. What they are doing is that they are expanding and bringing development to those places through education. So you go there, you realize that new people have set up businesses, they've opened hostels, people are selling, people are doing all of these. The students are buying, you have no choice. So education is being, development is extending to those places. What is our plan?
Thank you. And that is the competence I'm talking that he must bring to bear. That if this man is really competent, is talking about this, then we need a blueprint. We need some policy document which will spell out how he's going to transform the educational system, which is capable of generating revenue for this country. You mentioned the tertiary. You know, in fact, pre-tertiary, and then the second cycle. They are basically cost centers. We only spend. You cannot generate any revenue from that end. But the tertiary level, that is where we call the business level. In virtually all serious countries, the tertiary level is where you can even rake in foreign currencies. Yeah. Can you imagine that if Ghana has a plan that, okay, For all the tertiary institutions in this country, we are giving you a target of at least attracting 100 foreign students to your various campuses. Just multiply $5,000. The fees alone, I'm not talking about the multiplier effects, by this number per year to our GDP. And that's what we call the economic transformation through education. Now, can you imagine that for every mission in various countries, they are promoting Ghanaian universities in those countries? Like the way British Council, every now and then, virtually every quarter, they hold educational fair for their universities, invite Ghanaians to subscribe to all those, and it is being championed by British Council. Now, they've even gotten some subsidiaries, some individual institutions doing this on their behalf. It is no more even their missions in Ghana again, but even Ghanaians, because, you know, people are attracted by funds that they will generate from any activity at all. What are missions doing? I'm very happy this man has brought this conversation. And for us, we can only recommend and then try as much as possible to help him come out with a very good blueprint, which will help Ghana generate more revenue. In fact, foreign currency. And you know, if we are even to attract our 1,000 students, foreign students in Ghana every year, apart from their fees, there will be more remission of funds from their countries.
Of course,
Ghana,
of course.
for feeding, for accommodation. Yeah. That's a multiplier effect of at least attracting foreign students to this country. So for me, kudos to this minister. He's going to continue from the good work of Honorable Napo. In fact, for me, in the first half of Nana Akufo-Addo, he's the best minister I salute, because a policy that people were not very happy with, they were not sure that this can be implemented. He stood against all odds. In as much as we are today critiquing some of the challenges, he's done very well. No matter what, I know, even the opposition did not condemn it, but they said we wanted to do it progressively. It's not true. And then once we have, and it is one policy that I think we didn't have so much, dissenting views, but the concern was whether it was sustainable. My brother, Kwame, if Ghana will spend a chunk of our GDP for this policy, they should do it. The minute challenges we are facing, Kwame, there are people in the hinterland. If not for free SHS, they end with the JHS. So what we need to do...
That's debatable, actually. That's very debatable. Because I'm not sure... Well, maybe you grew up in Accra, but many of my friends, including me, including Kwame Osuda, so we all grew up in the villages. We found a way of going to school. I mean, if the economy is better, such that even when you sell pure water, you'll be able to make money and take care of your child. I'm sure most people... And you need the pride of a father or a mother or parents is that I struggled to take care of my child, and to ensure that I gave him or her the best of education. I don't know if that's the pride.
That's very true.
That's the pride of every parent.
And if you really want to understand the situation, ask Honorable. The number of people Honorable, finances their education.
That's the point I'm making. That even him,
it is not
pride for him.
No, it is not by mistake. It's a commitment.
Yeah,
you've made to help the vulnerable. It's not true. Look, sorry to say, probably my time is up. But Kwame, whilst coming, I was listening to one of the sister stations. In fact, all the surveys they solicited were just negative about free SHS. And I tell them that, look, Honorable, for some years now, I have a certain number of people I help from my village, from the people, from the towns I know, from friends that I know they are hard up. In the past, I'll pay the terminal fees, and their parents will pay for their TNT and those things too.
Yeah.
Now, at least the government is able to probably take part of it. So what we can do now is to help with TNT and other things they need for. And I know you do more than me.
Anyway,
because in your constituency, I know that people like you will always receive some of these issues, and to a large extent, that minute amount that has been absorbed by the government will leave something to help with the other aspect of the finance.
My disagreement, I mean, I agree with you. We all supported free SHS.
Yeah.
To be very candid with you, my disagreement with you is that, and maybe I'll finish with you on that, but I just wanted to make this general comment, and then I'll come to Honorable, is that it appears that, you know, we are just trying to swim in the ocean of free SHS without necessarily looking at the other variables. For instance, if the economy is good, if the economy is better, if people get jobs to do, if they are able to sell their produce and earn an income, I think they will be able to take care of all the other responsibilities, you know, all the other attendant responsibilities that come with giving birth.
Yeah.
So I think government's focus should rather be on making the economy better and, you know, being able to create a system where somebody can freely even be an entrepreneur and make money for themselves and farm and make money for themselves and not necessarily rely solely on government's interventions, because that's always the problem. Doc, Education Minister is pushing for economic transformation through education. And my central focus really has got to be the tertiary institutions. What is wrong with it? What is wrong with our tertiary institutions, or the structure of the tertiary education in Ghana, for which reason we have not been able to transform the fortunes of our people through that channel? And I've given an example. I've cited an example. And I'm very passionate about it, because I feel like our leaders are not thinking enough. They are not thinking outside the box. Like they are just in a box. They don't want to explore. You know, they don't want to move beyond the periphery of their thoughts. They want to just stay in that little box, the primeval way of doing things, and that's it. But people are thinking beyond, you know, what we can just give to people by way of classroom education, but how we can even generate revenue for the nation.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, and good morning to my people, West Central, and everybody, our viewers throughout the country and outside the country.
Hope people are watching from UK, US, Iceland, and all of that.
The biggest challenge of Ghana's education, or the biggest challenge of Ghana's development, Africa's development, is our inability to make leadership work. We have everything in Ghana. We have cocoa, which is high price. We have gold, best in the world. We have everything here. I mean, the land is good. You do through seas, they are growing. Everywhere you go is good for agriculture, portable, I mean, arable land. But we are failing. We are failing not because God has not given us what is due us. I was watching a documentary on the Emirates, and the leader of Dubai was being interviewed. He traced back the development of Dubai to when they were just riding camels and also just simply dependent on a desert and not getting enough, to the point when they had everything, the biggest tall buildings in the world, the latest technology is rising from the place, people are eager to go and invest there. And when they asked him, he said the difference is leadership. And the difference is knowledge acquired and utilization of it. You cannot have a country like this crying poor all the time. I was having a conversation with a member of parliament a few days ago, and we were having a discussion on energy. And we realized that if Ghana worked well, we are going to have to support our neighboring countries with supply of energy. Mali is crying, they want energy from us. We are supplying Burkina Faso. We are supplying Togo. You know, all the other neighboring countries wish Ghana could send their power to them. We have power up to about 5,000 capacity, is it megawatts? And yet, we are unable to utilize the power efficiently. We are unable to export the power the way we want. But the peaking period, the amount of power we require in this country, the highest we got up to was 3,000 last year, 2020. meaning we have extra 2,000 megawatts, which we are not using. So, and the impression is that with all these things, all the power agencies are broke. They have money problems. They are not able to secure, balance their incomes, and etc., etc. So you ask yourself, why won't government provide the kind of leadership that will allow these power agencies to go efficiently, to grow efficiently, and utilize their resources and their capacities efficiently? And every single time government is owing, these people are owing, they will take power, they won't pay, and things are going so bad for each of them. So for the things that will make us rise, like Dr. Maoto has said, for what will make us rise, for what will make us lead Africa or be champions in our own country, we relegate to the background. And then every single time we are going for borrowing. Tanzania, their president, is Magufuli, would 5 years in office without a loan. $10 billion offered to him by China as a loan. He rejected it. In that situation of self-dependence, he was able to build bridges, build highways, reconstructed the roads in his country, and improve his education, made education free without taking a single loan from anybody. This is leadership. So for us to be able to efficiently create value for development in this country, we need to improve our education system. We need to improve the curriculum that we use in training our Ghanaian people or students in the classroom. Because if you train somebody who comes out to line up in your offices for a job, and in 99% of the cases of the people who are trained, they are looking for somebody to employ them, you have failed. Education should equip the person to be on his own, to be able to be on his own. And the system should be so much so that in wanting to be on your own, you are able to reap the benefits of the system. In other words, if I want to be an engineer, private engineer on my own, a private nurse, a private teacher on my own, I should be able to walk to somewhere where I can take a credit. The credit management should be confident that when I take the money, I'm not going to spend it, I'll pay back, and they should be able to do that for me. In Ghana, once there's a credit agency willing to give and they give, the person taking it takes things that is free money. They find always a means. Why fire burned my place, the rains destroyed me, this thing happened to me, they won't want to pay back. So it's a two-way affair. The kind of education you provide in the person who will tell all these lies is bad. So the rapprochement that should exist between them is lost. The buyer and the seller are both suspicious of each other. Both of them are giving poor education. Both of them think that they can always tell lies and win. So I think that I agree with the Minister of Education that we need to change the situation in this country, development status of this country, by the kind of education we provide. I have always felt very bad that people, including doctors, medical doctors, including engineers, including lawyers, after getting the required training to be able to stand on your own, they are chasing people for a job, for somebody else to employ them. That means that, there's something wrong with our education.
But there's something wrong with your system. It's not just about the education.
But I
because
thought about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to, you see, the presumption, and with the grace of God, that has always been that narrative, that most of our leaders have been championing, that people don't want to be creative enough and industrious and ingenuine to be able to create jobs for themselves and etc. But when you were in the universities, for instance, you had Valco running. You had, you know, for instance, the glass factory there. You had several companies which were there. So even after university, you could find something to do. So fast forward, what have we seen? All the companies have been collapsed. Nothing seems to be working. So even when you go to university, you acquire knowledge. You come, you have the ideas, you want to execute it. There's nowhere to even go and access funds to execute that project. Now you need money to do things. So how do we, there's a certain symbiotic relationship which has been divorced by reason of our inability to think outside the box and to have the future at heart. Because if you have the future at heart, you will do things that will, you know, seemingly benefit them now, even though it's going to be in the future. But there's absolutely nothing going on. And no, this is a serious issue. Why do you think people are saying fix the country? It is not just about the educational system. The educational system, on the one hand, has a problem, yes. But the end result, which has got to do with the system itself, is the bigger problem for all Ghanaians and for every young Ghanaian in this country. And I'll give you an example. Go on social media, Honorable, and I'm very passionate about the young people. When I'm talking like this, you should know that I'm very, very passionate. Go on social media now. I will tell you for a fact that what you see is young people posting naked videos on social media just so somebody will come and patronize them. That is what is happening in this country. Go on social media, you realize that people are defrauding their fellow Ghanaians just so they can earn an income and make a living. That is the reality in Ghana. The reality in Ghana is that when the young man completes the university, they have no hope in the system, so they have to now stay at home and try to find ways and means of defrauding people or going to steal from people or just doing anything to survive.
Don't waste too much time.
I am not wasting too much time. I'm bringing those issues to
too much time repeating what I have said. The system, the educational system is part of the system you are complaining about. And that's what we are saying. The system itself is bad. The educational system is bad. So it trains people. It trains people who cannot invest their energies, including the companies that used to exist. The people go there and broke the system down. They go there, they bring Ghana Airways down, they break Ghana Steel Industries down,
Seriously?
they break Gavalco down. The same system is rotten, is bad. You see, we are like, we have everything, but we don't know what we have. So it is a system you and I are talking about. And I'm saying that if the system works, people will be on their own.
Absolutely, yes.
But I can even cite examples of people who are on their own. Look at Moses Baden, the owner of Margins. He's big-time business person. When he finished the university, he said he won't work for anybody. He decided to work for himself. Moses is now one of the best in Africa in terms of doing bank ID cards, doing university, everything that you think about, check ID cards, including our national ID card. He's the one doing it. You know, he's big time. He has never been worked for anybody.
In the same vein.
And let me give you...
In the same vein, there will be a young man who perhaps will even be more technologically advanced than him. That young boy will go and bid for that job. He will not even get it.
Which job?
What you're talking about?
No, but you see...
Because during that time, there was very little competition in the system.
I'm giving you another example. When I was a minister, a young man came to me. He said his father worked with GRA, ECG. And he wanted to get ECG. He couldn't find it. So by some fortune, he got somebody who offered him scholarship. He went to study and came back and realized that the scholarship and the masters is not still helping him. So he asked himself, what should I do? Then he said, okay, everybody is talking about oil in Ghana. Let me do something about oil. So he started attending conferences. Every conference about oil, he will go. Everything about oil, he will attend. And one day he realized that there is something about oil that is taken to South Africa. There are laboratory things and etc., etc. So he decided to do something in Ghana here for that. Today, he has set up a big factory here. He has gone to Cote d'Ivoire to set up one. And he's big time. A young guy at the time, just about 30 years. Now he's a big time guy. He's still less than 40. He's well developed.
He got funding.
And this is how he got the funding. He did a CV, added the name of a Ghanaian he knew about, who is well known in the oil business as a member of his company and a supervisor. And then he went from bank to bank, until one bank said, look, let's try this guy for the proposals he's making. And that's how he got his money. And he was committed. He paid back at every time he was given the money. So that's how, you know, things try. People should try. They should be much more ingenious.
This is 1 in a million.
Oh, I told you, Moses, about Moses. There are several of them.
Honorable, this is one. And when I say 1 in a million, I'm not talking about the fact that you know about 10 people.
Yeah.
We are 30 million people. The youth constitutes about 60%.
Not the 30 million. All of them cannot get the success.
But precisely, that's what I'm talking about. Somebody wants to survive. People want to survive.
There should be, I'm agreeing with you to the point that there's no enough education to let people be independent, confident to stand on their own. They don't have the capacity. And that's something wrong with the education. But if there was, these things would have been prolific. I went to Germany, and then I met a young man, 32-year-old man, young man, who came to, he started from Zambia, went to Tanzania. After doing his agriculture course, he finished at the age of below 30. By 32 years, he had set up a farm in Tanzania, Zambia, Tanzania, and then he said he wanted to come to Ghana. I was encouraging him to come to Ghana. And because he believed in farming, his father had been a farmer. After his university education, he decided to do farming and export to Germany. Today, at the time I met him, he was such a successful man. I mean, counting in millions. So those are the kinds of things that we should train our people to become. If the education system cannot do that for us, we are doomed, because we will continue to be having a government that is dependent on the external, begging for money from the IMF. This government says they won't do it. They are doing it every day. They have embedded us with debt much more than any government in history has done. Even though they said they want to be independent of government's external support, they are getting it. The Ghanaian is going to depend on the politician, because he expects that the politician should steal money, pay his fees, buy him a house, get him a motorbike, do everything for him. Then the person who is taking all that money is also having a dependency in his family, because they believe that he should be able to find money and do everything. So that kind of level of dependency moves from the pyramid side of government and come down to the base level, and everybody is dependent on something else. Until we can break away from this, until that mentality is changed, the mental faculty that tells you that you are poor, dependent, and cannot do anything without a white man, cannot do anything without a politician, cannot do anything without a big brother. If that thing is not removed, we are doomed. Education alone is the one that can change.
But we are what's the word I'm looking for? We are our own enemies in terms of even opening the Pandora's box for people to be able to, take advantage of something which is really even non-existent, right? Yeah. I'm saying this because, and Honorable, I think we should go there, that I would have thought, look at the kind of leaders we have, and not necessarily political leaders, talking about parastatal leaders and institutional leaders and all of that. You have people who have gone through a certain system, and the system benefited them. They have managed to rise through the ranks because the system was favorable to them. They have become heads of institutions. They have become heads of, educational institutions, etc. And yet somehow, they are preventing the young people from also taking advantage of the system to get to the point that they have gotten to, and to also better themselves and better their lives and contribute their significant best to the development of Ghana. I'm talking about the legal education, for instance. I'm talking about the medical education, for instance. How do you call it? Is it medical education or health education, however they call it? Absolutely. That it is a deliberate wickedness on the part of certain people to prevent students who are otherwise qualified to go into the law school and to become lawyers and contribute to the development of our nation, because these guys are at a certain level where they will die. If they die and they don't give their knowledge to the young people, how do we sustain the nation that we intend to build?
I mean, there's something that I want to take away from all these discourse, which is that there's another thing that is disturbing the Ghanaian young person. We complain more than we try to solve the problem. It's part of the challenge we have in education. In everything that we do, we look at the negative side much more than, okay, in the midst of this situation, how do I solve the problem?
Yeah.
And it's a big problem.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think that we should be much more progressive, much more aware of the future, have the futuristic tendency of awareness of who we are. Because if you look at, for example, this government, you will want to just go and bend the sea. People who said, we are going to create opportunities for people to work, to amass wealth, have failed so much so that people are so despondent, some of them will even want to kill themselves. Contractors cannot be paid. You can't get the job. When you get it, you can't pay. If you want the job, they ask you to pay 10%. You pay the 10%, you get a job, you can't finish it. And once you finish it with borrowed money, they won't pay you. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with a friend. In fact, my son, relatively, that's how he complained so much that he had so much jobs, he borrowed money to do the jobs, they are not paying his certificates. Eventually, they have said, okay, you are not doing well. They seize the job, reassign them to another person. He has done nothing wrong because he did a job up to a certain point. You refuse to pay him. The banks are holding him, and you have taken away the job. What do you want him to do?
But that's the kind of leadership I'm talking about. Like the kind of people that you're talking about.
So the leadership, I agree with you, has a problem. And it is a big problem. You know, for a government, everybody had confidence in. When Nana came, he talked about changing the circumstances of this country within 18 months. The road minister came. They said they will construct 20 flyovers in this country within 4 years. Where are they?
As for Nana, Nana, I won't lie to beyond the rhetorics and his inability to execute most of the things that he said he was going to do. Personally, I've had an encounter with Nana. So if I say, I mean, a video of mine trended and people didn't understand why I was saying that Nana Addo is a scam. People didn't understand. You understand? Because if you say one thing and you don't do it, if you say one thing and I mean, you say you're going to do A and you don't do the A, and you say you're going to do B and don't do the B, you do other things, of course, you are deceiving the people. And everybody who deceives people for the purposes of achieving their expected expected end, is a scam. So I said that for this. Okay, well, Doc, I think I've spent so much time. So let me come to Dr. Marazuk.
Yes,
Dr. Rashid Pearl. I don't know whether it was deliberate or otherwise. I said that we're complaining too much. I don't know what else we can do, to be honest. I really don't know what else the young people in this nation can do. Should we take arms? If we can't complain, should we take arms?
No.
Exactly, we can't take arms. So what we can do is just to complain.
Sure.
Now, if you complain so much and leadership fails to adhere to your demands, that's where the problem is. That you have a system where people are so rigid that they can't even change their mentality about what could be best for the very thing that we are all looking for. Ultimately, we are looking for the nation to develop. So if people are bringing diverse ideas and opinions which can shape what is otherwise rotten, why don't we absorb that and try to find out whether we can sieve through and make things better? It's like they've created a rigid mental set about how the system should run. You know, the colonial, primeval kind of system that should run, which is why our educational system is suffering, which is why we are training people not for industries, but training people for the purposes of just training people. And that, for me, is a fundamental error that ought to be corrected. And clearly, we need to do something about it. And something must happen now. And I'm saying that I don't trust Nana because when, for instance, some of us were in Rwanda, Nana Akufo-Addo visited Rwanda. And upon petitioning him, he made a solemn declaration. I do remember, I have the video, that when he got to Ghana, he was going to ensure that he spoke to the people who were in charge at Makola, so that when the students from Rwanda come in, they will admit us. We didn't go to Rwanda, for instance, on our own volition. We went there because a letter was given to us that those of us who were not able to get into the law school, I passed. They took us out at the interview level, right? Out of frustration, I needed to look for money. In fact, you, Dr. Rashid Pepe, you gave me some money to go to school in Rwanda. We came back, they said we won't admit you. Because why? Because Rwanda is not a complete common law system. But you gave us a letter to go to Rwanda. We complained to Nanado. Nanado said, oh, the moment I get to Ghana, I will address your issues for you. Why? If I become a lawyer, am I going to live in Afghanistan? I will stay in Ghana. I will work in Ghana. I will pay my taxes in Ghana. Yeah. So how come that we are frustrating people who want to genuinely acquire some knowledge so they can help in the development of our dear nation, Ghana? Why are we doing this to ourselves?
Okay. First of all, good morning to the cherished viewers of ours, and thanks for the opportunity to be here. Kwame, your question has been long, so I hope you would give me
I'll grant you
long time.
I'll grant you latitude. I'll grant you latitude. I'll grant you latitude. And I'm sure Dr. Rashid Pepe will be happy with that latitude.
Yes. Especially so when a lecturer is asked to comment on education. You can imagine. So you can imagine. Yes. But before I go ahead, Kwame, with your permission, I am very grateful to all those who contributed in kind and in cash to the performance of the funeral of Alhaji Alasan Tabo in Tamale at the weekend. He was a father, a grandfather, a husband, and an uncle. May Allah's perpetual mercy be on his soul. Also, Sheikh Dr. Ahmed Rufai Abubakar Nantong, my elder brother, expresses gratitude to all those who contributed to and participated in the closing ceremonies of his tafsir in the house, the White Mosque in Tishugu, the Complex Mosque in Vitim, and the residence of the late Alhaj Abubakar Nantong. May Allah bless all of us. Yes. If you look at this topic, there are two phrases. It contains two phrases. That is economic transformation through education. Fortunately, too, both phrases have both phrases fall within what we call the prepositional phrases. You know what I mean? Sorry. One is economic transformation, and then through education. We have adjectival phrase and prepositional phrase. One is an objective, what we seek to have, and then the other is the channel. So what we seek to have is the economic transformation, and we want to do so through the channel of education, right? So that tells you that education is an all-inclusive area. And I agree with my co-panelists who try as much as possible to link education to the entire structure of governance. So it is important for all of us to understand that education cannot be discussed in isolation. It is an area that affects everything in governance, everything in politics, everything in administration. But before we even go to certain areas, let us first of all analyze the generality of the issue. Kwame, there's no way we can achieve transformation in education or in economy if we fail to appreciate the 5 traditional models of education. 1, objective, what we seek to have. 2, content, how do we achieve that objective. 3, methodology. The methodology will either pedagogy or andragogy. And then the last one is evaluation. Ghana's educational system seems to be a failure in all these areas. Let's come to content. And you can't have any meaningful content without the curricula. And I am saying that with all due respect, most of the curricula of the various programs at the universities in Ghana are inconsistent with the realities of modern society. And because they are designed not to address the issues of contemporary society, they help to produce people who cannot be employed in the first place. So we need to tackle the curricula. Curricula, plural. Curriculum, singular. We must make sure that any course designed should respond to the needs of contemporary society. If we continue to have a gap between what is taught in the classroom and what is relevant to the industry, definitely you cannot produce an employable graduate. Let's come to the manner of delivery. My brother, you agree with me that the handout concept is highly abused. You teach people at the university, higher level, to avoid plagiarism. And plagiarism simply means intellectual theft. Then you as a lecturer go to the Google. You just steal people's material, you buy the material, and then you impose what you have bound on the students for a fee. And I can tell you, some insist that if you don't buy the handout, you will fail. And people do fail because of their inability to buy the handout. This is an insult to and an attack on creativity. First of all, you have introduced corruption and timidity into your delivery. You are telling the student that he or she cannot think. Unfortunately, university education is to enhance the level of creative thinking, the level of liberal thinking, the level of objective thinking. Unfortunately, you are telling the student that he or she cannot think. He or she must consume what you have stolen for him or her. That must be tackled. Again, we live in this country, and we can see that industry does not have any relation with academia. When we talk about those Volco and then those companies yesterday, in fact, if you look at the literature, they had close relationship with the universities. Some of them even sponsor students. Students were employed long before their graduation. Some would come and offer cars. Our elder brother might have seen those, yes, but enjoyed, or maybe his predecessors. Some would come and offer cars and accommodation to students still on campus and promise to get them. So there was that level of collaboration between the academia and the industry. And in that case, then, Ghana's education was not a tribute to unemployment. In a situation where we have high level of misgovernance, the higher level of misgovernance at the national level. And when I say misgovernance at the national level, definitely you cannot have that. Because we are talking of the relationship between pre-tertiary, I will just say pre-tertiary and the tertiary. The pre-tertiary is made up of the primary and the secondary, right? And then the tertiary. If you have a system that has an educational ministry, and the ministry is largely concerned about what happens at the primary and the secondary levels, and not what happens at the tertiary levels, and not even the relationship between what happens at the primary and the tertiary levels, definitely you cannot have any meaningful educational system. Largely, governments over the years have used the pre-tertiary levels as tools of political propaganda, tools of rhetorics, tools of deceiving people, tools of corruption. And the tertiary level has also been left out to individuals. Of course, the trend in the education, the literature tells you that every tertiary institution is either an autonomous or a semi-autonomous institution. So, but then, when it comes to that level, it is government that must make the environment conducive for people to function. Go and ask Methodist University, Pentecost University, Islamic University, the Medina Institute of Technology, and any other private tertiary institution, and you will hear the kind of challenges they face merely owing to policies of government in relation to education. Now, let me be specific now. You have complained bitterly about the fractured system of legal education we have. Let me extend it to medical education and perhaps engineering education. And I can tell you that it is purely traceable to policy making. It is one of the instances of misgovernance in this country. One of the instances of lack of foresight in educational issues in this country. In fact, I also wanted to develop an interest in law. One lecturer of mine asked me to consider two more areas in relation to, in addition to linguistic education. One, international relations. Two, law. And he was of the view that I should go and read law. But when I studied the environment of the legal education, I realized that no, I can't. Because this is an era of justice ruled by injustice. And you can describe it, I'm telling you, you can describe it as an act of intellectual colonialism. It is an act of intellectual colonialism.
Rewind the track and come back.
Some people, we have a clique. In fact, you can also call it legal gangsterism. We have a clique of lawyers and law educators who have sworn not to open the area, who have sworn to continue to have a perpetual grip on the area, who have sworn not to liberalize delivery in the area. And these people are arguing that they don't want mass production of lawyers. What is wrong with mass production of lawyers if the country is governed by the rule of law and democratic constitutionalism? What is wrong with that? And because we lack creativity, why don't you even have multiple areas of legal education that may not necessarily call for calling people to the bar or go to court? What we mention law in this country, even professors, some professors think basically that you must go to the law. You must go to the law court to argue. In fact, that's what, and correct me if I'm wrong. I have lived in certain society. I've been to America, I've been to Europe, I've been to a number of countries in Europe. And I've seen lawyers who do not go to court for legal business.
They do not want to.
They do not even want to. The system has made it clear. The system has given them an option. Either to practice the law before a court of competent jurisdiction or to practice the law outside the court of competent jurisdiction. Why don't we come up with such reforms so that we can even ease the burden on the law school and law education in this country? Why can't we do that?
What is the ministry doing about it? I mean,
exactly. I'll come there.
Precisely.
And so, Kwame, when I say that the minister is competent, I've heard him speak on so many occasions. And in fact, he has lamented. He has come up with such lamentations, similar lamentations. I believe that if he is given the free hands, definitely he can correct this mess. Go to the medical education. Let's go beyond the law, and then we go to medical education. Kwame, I've seen countries. When you go to the South American countries, and some of the Cuba. Look. Any failure can go to the the medical school
and become
one of the best medical doctors.
Sorry, do you know my niece who was reading business at me?
Yes.
He's a lawyer. It's a doctor.
in the US is not a medical.
Very good medical doctor.
Business admin.
In Ghana, yes.
No nexus between that and medicine.
That is
She's now a health practitioner in the US.
Exactly. So that tells you the power of creative thinking and transformation. Kwame, Frank Bawumia, he has done well in that area. He has been able to sponsor some Muslim students, and it is a fact. I don't fear to say it. He has been able to sponsor. What is wrong with sponsoring some Muslim students to go to Sudan to read medicine, and some of them have come back here. Sudan, Ghana, going to Sudan to read medicine. Can you imagine? Let me imitate Uncle Kwesi Pratt. Sudan.
But please, sorry.
To read medicine.
If you allow me to interject.
No, don't interject.
No, please let me tell you why I'm saying Sudan. Look, I'm saying Sudan because relatively Ghana is more politically stable than Sudan. Yet Sudan has been able to offer scholarships. Okay. Very good education. And Sudan has one of the most effective systems of education in the world. I'm telling you. Sudan. I'm not downgrading the educational
He's talking about
capacity of
political
Sudan.
stability.
Thank you.
Political stability. And that's why I didn't want you to come in. Political stability.
Thank you.
Political stability and proper educational system. Sudan. Go to Sudan. I've been to Sudan. I'm telling you. The International University of Africa. This is a university in Sudan that mounts almost all courses. International, one of the most recognized universities in the world. Sudan.
The biggest arbitration center in Africa is Rwanda.
It's Rwanda. Now you go to Rwanda, you come here, and then you see the development in Rwanda.
Yes.
No country can develop. When we say, you call it a cliche, it will continue to be a cliche, but relevant till the kingdom come. And that is the relationship between education and development. In fact, education is a visa to prosperity. But if it is fractured, it becomes a visa to retrogression. And that is exactly what we have. So, but His Excellency, the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, has done very well. In fact, through the intervention of His Eminence, the National Chief Imam, has been able to get scholarship to some Muslim students. They've gone to Sudan to do it. And these students wouldn't have had the opportunity to study medicine here.
This is our country.
No. Yet they've come back, and we recognize them. So what we are saying is that it is largely a matter of policy failure. And this should be a lesson to the education minister that we vouch for. But I know his competence. I know he can do it.
You don't question his credibility,
Yes.
neither do you question his competence. But credibility and competence are different things altogether when it comes to implementation and execution.
And that's
because you see, the truth is that, for instance, in the areas that we are referring to, the areas that we are so loudly and eloquently speaking on, legal education, medical education, like you rightly admitted here,
yes.
There's a certain cabal created,
Yes.
which cabal will not allow anybody to come and change that which they think is working for them.
Yes.
How would the ministry be able to break through
And
that?
that is exactly
That's the problem
and
for
that
me.
is, and that is exactly what I am saying. That remember, I want you to take note of one thing. I said, provided he is given the free hand to work, provided the system does not limit him to work in line with his own political
But
agenda.
the system should be judged on the basis of the rigidity of the system. The system will not allow you.
What I say,
the current system we have.
let me be specific.
Yes.
Provided the political leadership, provided the government. That's exactly what I'm saying. If President Nana Akufo, even in this case, with all humility, my president, Your Excellency, President Nana Akufo, we know that your man is good. Give him the free hand to work in the interest of the nation and not in the interest of partisan manipulation. Right. No, that is exactly what I am saying. And let me tell you something. If this man is able to break the jinx surrounding legal education, if he is able to dismantle the gang colonizing legal education in this country, if he's able to dismantle the gang colonizing medical education in this country, definitely those areas may serve as the gateway to the breaking of other areas that militate against proper education in this country.
Brilliantly submitted. You're still watching the News for Every segment on Pan-African Television. You can share with us what your views are via our Facebook page, which is Pan-African Television. We're also streaming live on YouTube, youtube.com/Pan-African Television. I've told you that if you are looking for political sensationalism, Pan-African Television is not a station of choice for you. Should not be a station of choice because we don't engage in sensationalism. we engage in developmental, topics topics that will shaping our thinking and enable us to bring about suggestions, which suggestions will help in the advancement of development in our dear nation, Ghana. So please, if you are looking for sensationalism, you can go elsewhere. Here with, Pardon?
On this program?
Yeah, on this program, of course. In fact, on all the programs, we don't engage in sensationalism, things that really do not matter, Because I've seen people asking me about some oil expose by Kevin Teller and Charlie. You go and watch Kevin Teller. That's okay.
Please.
We will stick to our educational topics and things like that.
Our health.
Dr. Rashid Topo, I'm starting with you on the next topic. Economic management performance data. IMF exposes government again. Sir.
Well, thank you very much. This is something that many of us are always worried about. That some of the figures that they bring to the public from government are manufactured figures. They don't reflect the reality. Today, IMF appears to be exposing government because of that. Government came out with a figure of 76.1% as our debts to GDP. IMF says no, it's 78.5% or more than 78%. Our total deficit, our government said, oh, we are in deficit about 11 point something. IMF said, no. Your deficit is about 15.5%. And etc., etc. These things don't give the level of confidence planners, supporters of system growth, and students the ability to do correct analysis, statisticians to do correct analysis. And it also doesn't give a correct picture of the rate at which we are growing. So it's a problem. And so I think that in order to have an intentional government reflecting the true picture of your development, you would need to be very true to the figures. Even when you are going down, tell people you are going down so they can go along with you and then see what we can all do to bring up a fallen government. At every point in time when we are giving figures that don't reflect the true picture of our national growth, then there's a problem. The IMF should not always be our benchmark anyway for how we look at our development. I don't think that somebody else should supervise the Ghanaian economy, our growth, and etc., etc. But we have given ourselves to them. And so we should be able to reflect the true picture of what we get from them. So if we want to be alone, out of the control of IMF and the World Bank, there are ways to do it. You can't be speaking and saying that you don't want control by IMF, the World Bank, and then every single time you are going to them. And then you don't expect them to tell the story as they see it. So I think that it's a very big indictment on government. It tells about government true failure. It tells about the challenges we receive every day when our CD is falling and we don't understand why it's falling. And we need to rise above the circumstances.
Right.
Because it's important for Ghanaians and Ghana to do that. The present MPP administration has failed Ghanaians a lot. because of what they do and what they represent in the eyes of people. So much talk about corruption. The lowest point of corruption of the NDC government, the past NDC government, the lowest point where they say this is the level you are corrupt up to. MPP's best has not gotten there yet. Can you believe that? Since the beginning of power, they have been increasing by the corruption index on and on. The perception index has been growing. That tells you that there's something wrong. So when you hide away from telling the truth about your figures, the corruption index will expose you. And that is what we are being exposed to.
Well, I mean, let's get into the economic management of the country proper.
Yes.
Because this is just a narration by IMF.
Yes.
You know, but let's look at the economic situation in Ghana at this material moment. And I'm sure that we're going to use variables to determine the performance of this economy. One of such will be maybe inflation, GDP, etc., all those, you know, all those curves, economic curves and indicators and all of that, right? But the most important aspect for me, if we're talking about indicators, will be the indicators from the perspective of the Ghanaian people. How they feel, what they go through, how much they buy their cement for, how much they buy their, you know, their how do you call it, fuel for instance, how much taxes they are paying, what they are getting out of those taxes there. How would you judge the economic performance using all of these indicators put together? At one point, I think, was it inflation or GDP, was at a single digit. Now it's, I think, around 11 or so.
That's the...
Is it not GDP or inflation?
No, the inflation.
Inflation, yes. So if you're looking at that, I mean, creditably, they've performed well. In terms of the theoretical economic indicators, I'm using theoretical because if we want to practicalize it, perhaps the explanations will be different, right? So in theory, it looks like they are performing better than you guys.
Oh, not at all. We left this government at a debt to GDP rate of 54%. And we did so much. I mean, everybody sees the roads we built, the hospitals we built, the universities we built. Everything that we did are still evident for people to see with that investment. They are in government. They are gotten up to 78% with very little to show. Even with that one, you know that, you know, it's not the case that they have done well. And again, figures. They rely so much on figures, and that the figures are good. Today, IMF has told us that those figures are not right. So you don't know what they are relying on. If you say these figures, we are doing well because of the figures are saying today we are doing worse. If you say we will not borrow, you have borrowed more. If you say you have done investment, capital investment more than us, we can see today that we have done it more. So comparison will not be good for MPP at this time. You know, I think they should better be talking about the now and what they can use the 3 years left for them to...
How do you describe the economic situation?
The economic situation is terrible. It's bad.
Why?
In fact, we are at a verge of a failed economy. The reason is this. All the sources of income that come to boost an economy, we have used them as we have used them as how do we say it?
Oh, mortgaged.
We have mortgaged them or leveraged them for something else. And so the money coming in from the physical space is very small. Because of that, you can't go in for more loans to develop this country. And because of that, there are certain investment areas, new areas you want to break into. You cannot. So we are restricted. the total perception of corruption has gone higher. It means in the external world, we are not seen to be one of the best. And so when you see an economy that doesn't have space to rise because it cannot generate income into the country, there's something wrong with the economy. There's something definitely wrong. And so you can see an economy too that cannot be seen to be a truthful run economy from what the IMF has done. And so at every point in time, wherever you want to go to relieve yourself of the brand of that you are not doing well is covered by something else. So I think that it is not one of the best economies in Africa. We may be doing well compared to the many, many failed situations of economic development in Africa when you make those comparisons. But if you take our economy as an independent, an independent entity performing to satisfy the 30 million people, we are not doing so well.
Right. Clearly, Kojo Clement is not happy with me because I said we don't want to engage in sensationalism. His disagreement with me is predicated on his assumption that we are talking about educational system, the fact that it has to change. And he's saying that, will the educational system change without funds when people don't pay taxes? And you call you call tax evasion sensationalism. Well, good luck with that. Maybe Kojo Clement doesn't understand what I'm saying. I'm saying that it is not a substance of what is out there. If I don't have enough evidence to back my allegations, I don't put those things out. I don't know because you can allege, you can make those allegations and all of that, but you need proper evidence to. Somebody sent me the documents yesterday. I've seen them. I have them. I can even show you. I have the documents. You know, some I think BDCs or something who have evaded taxes and things, and have not paid their taxes to I think a tune of about 1 point something million. You know, I have the document, but I'm yet to independently verify the substance of those documents. I don't want to put out information that I've not verified.
Yeah.
So that's why.
So it's not about not engaging in those ones. We all respect Calvin Taylor. What's his name?
Yeah.
Calvin Taylor. He's good. He does research. He brings information out. Pan Africa says they'll pick them when they are verified and found to be the case.
Absolutely.
So that it will be serious matter.
Absolutely.
Let me just chip in. I think Pan Africa has a specific editorial policy that respects the centrality of objectivity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Calvin Taylor is a great guy.
No, sir, of course, nobody's questioning that. Yeah, but we just need to also to be careful with some of the things that we put out. Anyway, but brilliant submission. This particular submission of yours, I'll have them cut it for me. I'll do something with it.
Thank you.
All right. You can send your views and your comments to me via my text number and also via Facebook. I will try and read them. So, Kojo Clement, no disrespect to you, sir, for bringing that issue out. I respect that. With the grace of respect, I respect that, you know, but I've given my reasons why. I'm coming to you, Dr. Kwaku Mawuto. Dr. Kwaku Mawuto, clearly, I want to a very minimal extent, agree with the last part of the submission of Honorable Dr. Rashid Pelpu, when he indicates that if you look at the fiscal space, for instance, it's nothing to write home about. And I'm agreeing with him to a minimal extent because of what was said by Dr. Bawumia. And in fact, when Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta was before the Public Appointments Committee, what he said about fiscal policy and the fact that they said that the then NDC administration was very indisciplined in their expenditure, and that they were spending more than they could generate, and that their primary focus was going to be on controlling the fiscal space so that we'll be fiscally disciplined, you know. And they started that, to be honest. I mean, if you look at, I think, Doc, was it the one of those funds to you, how do you call it? Those monies, they cap it by 30% or so. Exactly. You know, so they were trying to do all of those. But right now, it appears that your people are struggling, you know. They are in the middle of an ocean and they can't even navigate their way around. In fact, they can't even find the captain of the ship. The captain of the ship has abandoned the ship. The captain of the ship has abandoned Brazil and gone to France to go and seek advice from Macron as to how we can better an African economy. African leaders, they get problem. They get problem. They get problem. We for psychoanalyze them well. Anyway, go ahead.
All right. So, Kwame, I think I know. I mean, for Honorable, he will give the preamble very well, but finally he will land into the political submission. No two ways about that.
That's
not the end.
He will settle down.
That's what
landing in partisanship.
That's what smart politicians do.
So I knew Honorable would surely land his submission into some level of comparison. I mean, no two ways about that. It tells you that he belongs to a political, family that has some ideologies.
Whatever he likes, whether he likes it or not,
he will land there. Okay? but for some of us, we see it as it is. Yeah. So, Kwame, I think let me start from the IMF. We've been talking about this, and I also like the statement Honorable made that, you see, IMF. It doesn't mean that IMF have the penchant to tell us how to govern our country at any given point in time. Yes, indeed, it is more of a regulatory institution, to guide, to advise. They play more of advisory roles and also help countries, raise funds and all that. However, when it comes to this issue of misrepresenting the facts, it depends on classification. And we've discussed this here over and over again. So when they make it look like it's an expose, I disagree with them. I disagree with them totally. Why do I disagree with them? We all know what goes into the government's debt stock, or the public stock of our government. Debt, owned by the ministries, the agencies, and department of the central government. Else, debt owed by universities should be captured as public debt. No. No, they are not. They are not.
Yeah.
Because they are not debts. Are you okay? Which we could classify under the central government's debt. I mean, globally, the total public debt is classified. Now, with respect to the Energy Sector Levy Act, that's ESLA, it has always been a bone of contention. Every year, IMF comes out to submit on that 2% discrepancy. It happened last year. It has happened this year again. Bring something new. The government says that, you see, that particular 7.63 billion we're talking about is owed by an institution set up independently to manage a certain agenda, national agenda. So it doesn't fall under our normal classification of public debt. The ministry has come out to explain this every year. Last year it happened. This year we are coming out with the same thing. And to be frank with you, Kwame, when it comes to classification, we will have perpetual disagreement between IMF and the Ghanaian government. You wait. In future, in the event Ghanaians probably decide to give that goodwill to NDC to come back to power again, I will want that they also probably will reclassify this as part of our debts, public debts, or will leave it as it is. Especially when you know that over the years, you all know, when these political parties are in opposition, the way and manner they analyze and lament differs from when they come to power. That is it, because I want to, the last time when the Friday, Kwame, I have an issue with you.
Hey,
I watched you on Friday, Honorable I told you that please ask Honorable.
But I asked the question.
I didn't hear it. I said to him, look, ask Honorable Fuseni that if it was NDC managing this country in the midst of COVID, how would they have managed this country?
Alternative.
I'm telling you. No, I wanted, because the man was lamenting. Yes. I mean, giving all the proverbs. All the proverbs. So describe. In fact, this man, whenever.
I have to defend it. The proverbs are in the ground.
I'm telling you. He will translate and use it to describe the MPP in a certain manner. So I wanted him to tell us how, because you see, in 2016, Honorable knows very well that we had a serious issue that wasn't born out of probably in a year, but build up, self-made, that is Dumsor. Dumsor wasn't caused by NDC, we all know. Dumsor is a self-made, I would say, endemic in Ghana. And in 2016, it became so severe. How did NDC manage it? It was so chronic that the entire economy was affected by Dumsor, and Ghanaians couldn't have that patience and said, look, NDC, we don't want you again. So we were voted out of power. Now we are talking about the global pandemic, which has bedeviled economies of, the whole world. Honorable Fuseni, you should have just ask him how he would have managed it.
Honorable.
Okay, that is it.
Doc,
the chairman.
IMF is telling you and telling the MPP and telling all of Ghanaians that you people have been massaging your data, and that the data that you have is not a true reflection of what the situation is on the ground.
No, IMF didn't say. They didn't say massage. When you use massage, in accounting, massage is a crime. Yeah, window dressing, it's a crime.
So, what are the figures?
You get
disparity. What are the disparity?
So, you see, there's a classification, a basic and a fundamental classification between IMF's definition of public debt and then that of the government of Ghana. Government, the only discrepancy is the ESLA debt thing we are talking about. Now, IMF is saying that add the ESLA bond. Government says no, ESLA is a private institution like any of the public universities. So they are independent, they are established by acts to raise bonds and use their revenues to offset them. So we are not adding it to our public debt. IMF says add it. You cannot tell me to add it. In as much as you are an advisor to the economy, global advisor to every economy, you can't tell me to add it. And the answer will be consistent. That's why I said, because Honorable veered into that, I would have wished that if they were in power, they would have decided to add ESLA bond to the public debt to increase our debt to GDP to 78%. That's the argument. So you see, until we understand each other, there will be this consistent fundamental discrepancy between our debt to GDP and that of the IMF. Now, Kwame, you asked a very sensitive question, and I'm very happy because for every sitting on Wednesdays, you tend to ask those questions, and I know why, because you are very passionate youth, or you have a person who is so passionate about the youth of this country. So you always want to bring governance to the doorsteps of the youth.
Yes. To
understand the fundamental fiscal policies that will be probably friendly to everyone, the rich, the poor, everyone. Now, you ask, this so-called performance indicators, what do they do for the economy? If a honorable gave you a very good answer, but finally landed on the partisan one, as usual.
Honorable is a patriot and a politician.
Yes. That's why I say
start from patriotism and end in partisanship. That is ideal.
No news about that.
He is politically patriotic.
Yes, sir. If you want to do comparison, okay, I will always say that the last time you asked, when the communicator of MPP came out to say that they are the best governors of this economy, the answer I gave was that, look, if you tell me you are the best manager of the economy, when you took over, what did you do? Let me be the best judge. Exactly. Now, as an average Ghanaian, what was the interest rates when a Ghanaian businessman want to expand? If not for expansion, nobody will go for a loan. Kwame, you know that. If not for expansion, I won't go for a loan. If not for development of some ideas that I've generated with and want to generate into a product, I wouldn't go for a loans, because that's where you need funding. Kwame, we live in this country where the average Ghanaian, the average Ghanaian salary earner you have to spend over 30% of your monthly salary to pay interest every month, like every year. That was too high a cost to be borne by anybody who wants to expand.
Okay.
Now let's look at just opposing it with this current government, where today, in terms of interest rates, let's face the fact, truth be told, they've done very well by pushing down the government of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has done very well, okay, in reducing interest rates for businesses so that at any given point in time, they can go to the banks and borrow.
So you are saying
at an average rate. So we are picking them one by one.
In the final, no, because of time.
No. So I'll lead into the last ones. In the, you can today you can take average. You can go for loans at the average rate of 20 to 21% today. Today as a salary earner, and then some businesses, because of their goodwill, even do less than 20%. It tells you that in terms of interest rate, they are doing very well. Inflation. I mean, Honorable even commended the government for reducing inflation, because now I think this last month was a single digit now. From March was 10.5. I think it's now about 8.5 or so.
Now,
I mean, in April. In April, I think you check the figure. You can cross check.
Then
I think April is about 8.5. It means inflation, they are doing well. Okay. Now, the issue of the foreign exchange depreciation is my problem. Because, as you mentioned, it's one of the things that His Excellency Dr. Bawumia mentioned, that look, our currency continues to depreciate. So I expected that when NPP took over, they should have either sustained the rates at where it is, or you assess them to have reduced it. Are you okay?
Yeah.
And finally, so there's a topic here. Maybe I wouldn't want to sway there, but our foreign direct investment, GPIC. GPIC, you have mentioned. I think there's something
the top there.
No. So, but see, I am very particular here. GPIC is very, very important. It's also an indicator, because
GPIC is Ghana Investment Promotion Center.
Yeah, they are supposed to promote foreign direct investment in this country. Kwame, go and see the figures.
Terrible.
2016, the numbers are reducing consistently.
Why? The question is why.
So there's something wrong. So I wasn't surprised when I read the story.
Do you know why? Because they don't put people who have the
and these are areas that we have to.
We can generate money. Look, in Rwanda, I don't always like to cite them as an example, but unfortunately I have to, because it's a small country. And they generate, the last time I checked, they generate $800,000 per every quarter or so out of tourism. $800,000. Just tourism. Yes, tourism.
Rwanda, you want to go again?
Tourism. Why?
Of course, because the country is beautiful. Yeah. I've gone to London through Rwanda Air.
Yeah.
Then we landed in Kigali.
Wow.
Very nice environment. Wow. You sleep in Kigali. Nice environment.
Okay. I have to read messages, but I want to take your submission on this issue before I wrap up.
Right. Yeah. Kwame, we are dealing with two institutions. One, a government whose economic performance is questioned by so many people, and rightly so. And then a neo-colonial institution called IMF.
Dr. Kofumoto's best friend.
Between the two institutions, I will trust my government, even if it is not performing. The neo-colonial institution, IMF, cannot, as has rightly been argued by our elder brother, Honorable Dr. Rashid Pelpo, cannot be telling us how we perform and how we should perform. That is in an ideal situation. But because we are dealing with a situation that is not ideal, this neo-colonial institution arrogates to itself the mandate to be the chief examiner of our economic performance. And that alone raises another question about governance in Africa. That is dependency mentality. What is the accuracy of the data churned out by IMF, that neo-colonial economic strangulation institution? What is the accuracy? So until I am convinced that the data churned out are based on accuracy, I will continue to see it as a mere neo-colonial institution that is not interested in the economic performance of any African country. But should the IMF alone be blamed? Certainly not. The government, my own government, even if it is seen as not performing, should share the blame. Because it is the government that has created the opportunity for the IMF to continue to colonize us, to continue to direct our economic fortunes, to continue to direct our economic performance, and to continue to hold itself up as the chief examiner of our economic performance. So I can see that you are struggling with time.
Yeah.
So let me just end by saying that we need to tackle that danger, the monster of the monster of dependency mentality, and work towards the realization of self-reliance in our economic performance.
I'm humble. Thank you. Few messages and then we wrap up. Good morning, Pan-African Television. In fact, education policy makers have failed us as a country. Imagine someone who wishes to offer medical course in Ghana, who has been denied, but had the opportunity to offer same course in a country considered lower to Ghana. I know of a physician in Tamale Teaching Hospital who was denied admission in Ghana, but has successfully completed same course in Sudan, as doctor said, and she is currently saving lives in Ghana. I see the problem to come from the bodies such as Medical and Dental Council, Ghana Nurses and Midwifery Council, Allied Health Professional Council, to mention a few. They bring in clauses that disqualifies several people from achieving their goal. Thank God you are discussing it. I hope they will listen. From Abu Sufyan from Yendi. Nana Afra Entry says, good morning to you, KOD. I'm really enjoying your discussions about our educational system in Ghana. KOD, since I came to live in Iceland, I have realized the importance of technical and vocational education, but I wasted my time in secondary school reading plenty. Hopefully, the Ghanaian youth will now channel their energies to vocational and technical education. Greetings from Reykjavik, Iceland. This one also says, Honorable Alhaji Rashid, you are a great leader with a vision like JM. Anto also says, the economic indices end up on the table of socio-economic development reflected on roads, hospitals, etc. Ranting around GDP rate of inflation with development to ease the suffering of the people is nothing to call a country about. Kojo Clement, yes, we have smoked the peace pipe. So he says, thank you, KOD, for your response. I respect you and your panelists. I watch your program a lot. Thank you. Ibrahim Washara says, KOD, £1 is equals 8.34 Ghana cedis. £1 can buy kinke and fish. £1 can buy kinke and fish in Ghana. Oh, problem. We change, yes. Anto says, KOD, okay, I think Anto, I've read that one already. Yeah. Again, why is MPP still blaming NDC administration 5 years into their administration? Ghana is finished under this elephant people. Greetings to Honorable Ebi Hussein. This one is from Osman in Tamale. This one is from Abbas Omogobo in Offenso. President Akufo-Addo is the worst ever leader that has happened to Ghana and the MPP so far, and definitely going to cause a massive defeat for the party come 2024. He has proven to be incompetent, corrupt, despotistic, and ignorant of governance in general. The MPP will pay dearly for his leadership. He said, greetings to Honorable Barbara Sewa Asamoah. Good morning to you, Kwame. Tell Dr. Kwekumaoto that he should stop doing politics on the set. How can he tell us that ESLA is a private debt that should not be added to our public debt? His submissions are totally out of context on this particular, in this particular regard. Thank you very much. Johnny from Adenta sent in this one. This one says, good morning to you, KOD. I was crying listening to you this morning. Please, I need your contact. Nobody should blame we the youth in this country. Come to Ghana Health Service. It is very, very bad. I like the question you asked. Should we, the youth of Ghana, take arms? I need your contact. Well, it was a question in relation to a certain portion of the submission that was made by Dr. Rashid Pepo that we should also stop complaining too much. And I said that if we stop complaining, what else can we do? We cannot take arms. So, yes, it was not, I'm not asking people to go and take arms. No. Yeah. This one is from Kwame in Tabora.
Very good clarification.
Yes. This one is from Kwame in Tabora. It says, greetings. Kwame, is it not a shame? Is it not shameful? Is it not sad, shameful, appalling, and mind-boggling to see Ghana, our beloved Gold Coast, collapsing in every setup of our economy? Disputes after presidential results is quickly rushed to court for amicable settlement. Kwame, why not do the same to a policy that will take Ghana out of our woes? A policy is developed, and instead of implementing such policies to carry our country to the highest developmental progress, such document is just placed on a shelf in a room and locked up. Kwame, why not same politicians send, why wouldn't the same politicians send such a matter to court in order to have justice? Corrupt leadership have sunk this country. Kwame from Tabora sent in this one. Good morning to KOD and your panelists, especially Honorable Alhaji Dr. Rashid Pepo for making such great brainy delivery in terms of the majority of problems facing the young man in Ghana. In fact, Honorable should one day, inshallah, be president. I personally believe our system is rotten, and this is as a result of very bad leadership. Prince Pepo Wala Techiman. Thank you. Tell Dr. Kwakumaoto the GDP to Galamsey is good for them, but not the GDP on Ghana. James from Kumasi. Hey, Charlie, people make wado. Good morning to you. Please, can I have your number? Michael from Ablekuma. Michael from Ablekuma, I will give you my number. Yes, I've done that already. This one also says, loan interest rate is reading about 30%. It's not 21%. That you people are saying. KOD, please ask Dr. Kwakumaoto for me to tell us who's representing the people of SAL watching you from London.
Nobody.
Nobody is representing the people. Well, I mean, it's sad, you know. Elijah says, hi, good morning. The tertiary education in Ghana is not only about cramming and the ability to remember what you read from the lecturer's note. Okay? Yes. It says that engineering students are reading with no practicals, and when you question them, the answer is you should be able to explain the science behind it. I'm praying that education must be changed. Please stop calling the WhatsApp number to build our ability to be self-independent after school. I agree with you, Elijah. All Elijah people in the world are very intelligent. Thank you. Please, why is the media not asking questions about the past promises the MPP made in 2016 for building hospitals and schools? Have those hospitals and schools been built before the media is now disturbing us with 20 interchanges? Good morning. This is Lukman Bansi from Kaswa CP. Yes, indeed. Theoretically, this government is better than JDM's government, but in practice, they are very far from the competency of JDM. Hashtag Fix Ghana Now. Good morning to you, Champion KOD, and my love to your panelists. I love you guys. I just love you guys. I can't skip a day without your program. Ayuba from Northern Region. Ayuba, I love you too. Hi, I'm Swale from Tamale. In fact, today's program is super wonderful. Good morning to you, Kwame, and to you and Dr. Marzouk. I hope I spelled the name right. It's M-A-R, not M-A-N. It's not Manzouk, it's Marzouk. And Dr. Pepo, you have made my day. Kwame, after my polytechnic education, I realized the huge gap between academics and the job environment. I noticed that I couldn't perform. I therefore took it upon myself to build my capacity in terms of the ability to perform, obtaining a BSc in my field of practice. I'm now being chased by many of my colleagues. Charles from Odoko sent in this one. Wow. Yes. Charles is a very intelligent young man. Richard from Teshi says, good morning to you. Please, could you use your good platform to ask the receiver when the exit package and salary arrests of staff of defunct microfinance companies are going to be paid? Remember we said this off air. You know, but look, I have had so many messages. I cannot read all of them, but I thank you. All.
Kwame,
finally.
This is a very serious matter.
The GIPIC matter.
We can't have time to discuss it.
1 minute.
But you can imagine you have an official accommodation. they have decided to abandon the official accommodation, that is Ghana Investment Promotion Center, and then went to rent a smaller accommodation and paying 3 million Ghana cedis a year for that accommodation. So for 3 years, they paid 9 million Ghana cedis. Meanwhile, that accommodation for them is just 1, 2, 3 story high. It's abandoned and just left there. I went there the last time. I was confused. They use chain to lock it up and then abandon it there. So it's just something small. I thought that Ghanaians should be aware.
Do you know why
you
why you were praising Magufuli?
Yeah.
Because it won't happen in this
It
country.
will not happen.
Thank you.
You will stay there.
Yeah. Thank you.
And make it better.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Rashid Pepo, for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you, Dr. Kokumauto, for your time. And thank you, Dr. Marazu, for your time. I appreciate you.
Also
You're
add
welcome.
that when investment promotion becomes corruption promotion, that becomes unfortunate. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Walaikum salam.
Yeah.
All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Yes, we're going to have a very wonderful time tomorrow on the show again. My name is Kwame Usuran, so you can call me Champion KOD, and I'll definitely respond. Let's do our little best for the development of Ghana. Please, please, on Pan-African television, we are developmental oriented. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Every day he looks after his brother and chases a bus. Every day he looks after his brother, chases a bus, and learns new things. Every day he looks after his brother, chases a bus, learns new things, and gets back home. Every day he looks after